All right, this morning we're going to learn about exists. So this is where SQL Server, or not SQL Server, but SQL and MongoDB kind of part ways. And the reason why is, for the most part, this would never actually come up in a SQL database, I should say. Probably this scenario, maybe so, at least one that I'm aware of. It would not come up in. So we're going to look at our database here, or I'm sorry, we're going to look at our collection here, SQL Server, and you'll notice we have all these values, and I've added some values, and we're going to type and get the remaining values. Now, what I want you to note is that one of our values in this collection does not have number. And we can see, if you look very carefully, it is on screen. It is right, whoops, wrong button, wrong move, right here. So you have object ID, we have financial, we don't have number. Everywhere else we have number, right? We have number up here, we have financial up here, and number, but this value, we do not have number, okay? So, the reason why I point that out is this flat out doesn't exist. Now, it's important to know this is not where number is null. There is no number. So remember that NoSQL is schemaless. This is an example of schemaless, right? There is no number column, or no number key, I should say. Columns in SQL are the equivalent of keys in NoSQL. So this is a big difference, and to note here, we can store data where there are no keys, where in some values there are keys. Now I'll give you a practical example just off the cuff on this, and that is, in the world of the stock market, Americans, of course, I'm an American, I make fun of my own people because I can. We generally like to think that the world works exactly the way it does here in America, and that's actually not true. And some stock markets are actually very different than the US, like global markets, China, Hong Kong, Brazil, etc. They may be very different than us. And so there are advantages where we might have, let's say, keys. There are advantages to, there may be documents that don't have those same keys for whatever financial value we have in America that means something. For instance, examples like a split or a dividend, these are things that happen, may not happen in every single market. They may or may not, right? So it's actually fairly advantageous to have a collection, if you would, of data in which some values just flat out don't have things, right? So as a case in point, if I wanted to look for, hypothetically, let's suppose there was a market out there that did not ever have dividends. That's a case in point. And I wanted to look for the markets that didn't ever do dividends. I could easily pull that up, right? So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at number, where number exists. This is our operator, so it's $exist, and where it's false, right? So, and this would be an example. Again, I don't know of any market that doesn't have dividends, but let's suppose we wanted to look at a market that dividends didn't exist, right? This would be an example where we could do that. If we had all the markets stored, this is one way we could do that. Usually the way that SQL people, I would say, will handle that is a bit operator, 1, 0, right? It does not. In this case, we just flat out don't have to store it, as you see. And what comes back is only one value, as we know should. So, first of all, you can store data that do not have the same keys as other documents in the collection. If you were to store, let's say, blog post, since everybody loves to use that as an example with MongoDB, and one blog post of yours didn't have any tags, you could literally leave tags blank. You don't have to null it out. It flat out doesn't have to be added, the key tags, right? So this is one of the things about Mongo that is very different. You can actually have values that do not have columns. When you insert a value into a SQL database, whatever the values are specified in the table, whatever the columns are specified in the table, you are not going to be able to keep something off. It will be a null value. And keep in mind, if it doesn't allow nulls, that won't happen either, okay? So if I have a table, column 1, column 2, column 3, I cannot insert values into that table where column 3 simply doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. It will be null, but that point is there's still a column there, and that column's value is null.